We are live on YouTube and Facebook. Welcome. Welcome to the shop. We're going to take this little piece of box elder. It's a crotch piece with a little bit of burley action, maybe. I got this from my friend and mentor, Mark Soleil. And we're going to see if we can't make a little lidded box out of it. I've got some African blackwood that I'll be able to use as a foot and a lid. So let's get this between centers and see what we can do. First thing I need to do is find centers. I'm going to use my Duxbury center finding tool. This is from Jim Duxbury, Jim and Rita Duxbury. This is a really cool little invention. Just hold your pencil in there, you loosen the wing nut, pencil slides in and out. You can change the angle so you can get to an approximate center of your piece. And tilt your camera down there. You can get to an approximate center of your piece, tighten it up, and then just kind of rotate the piece. This thing isn't exactly round, so we're going to see if we can get a better approximation of center here. There we go. That looks like it might be a little bit closer. I'll put a center right around there somewhere. A little bit more roundness here. So this is just a guesstimating tool. It can find exact center on a piece that is square or round. Obviously this piece is not, but it gets us in the ballpark so we can find a center for the top and bottom. Put us about right here on this end. And I think we're going to go with this side. We'll true it up here on the lathe. So it gets us close. Go ahead and get this mounted. This is the wider end, so I'm going to call this the base of the box. That will give me a place to put a tenon so that we can hold it in a chuck. We'll lower the speed of the lathe all the way down. Take my watch off so that there's no risk of it getting caught on anything spinning. A little safety advice for you. I can monitor chat from both the YouTube channel and on the Facebook page, so if you have any questions, please type them in. I'll try to check that. We'll go ahead and start this slow. It's not perfectly round, but it is not terribly out of balance. Not bad. We shouldn't have much trouble getting this round and getting a tenon on the end. Very, very good. We've got, I'm not sure if this is just all crotch or if there's some burlishness in here. We're about to find out. Either way, there's going to be some really good figure in this little piece. And we'll start rounding it out with a 5/8 inch bowl gouge. You just take some very light passes and start removing that bark. Start working that into a cylindrical shape. That is on a step center, so rather than catching, it'll actually spin. But that also gives me a good gauge as to whether or not I'm putting too much pressure and moving the tool too fast. If I keep stopping it, it means I need to take my time and slow down. I'm not 100% sure exactly what we're going to do here, but I feel like a lidded box with an insert on the lid and possibly a insert on the foot may be what comes about out of this piece. Just take light cuts, let the tool do the work. I can see that I still got a lot of bark that I'm not quite round down there. I was going to do this earlier today, but I tweaked my back a little mowing the lawn. Weed eaters are not easy on people with bad backs. So I decided to come out nice. So we've got a lot of crotch figure here. Very expressive green. We still need to get down a little more to get this round. Howdy, Bart. Good to see you, man. Good to see you, my friend. One thing I need to be careful of is that I don't take this down so far that I don't have room to put a tenon on it. There's still got a lot of bark action down here. That's really pretty. I don't want to lose. See, it's not so much burl as it is crotch, and you get a little burly pieces of twisted green in that crotch figure. Let me slide you guys over a little bit. There we go. So we've got some really need to make sure that I'm on solid wood and not bark down here at the bottom. We're going to go ahead and flatten this out. Get some light on the subject. I am in spindle orientation. So I could probably bring up the skew chisel to do this. But I've got grain going every which way, and skews don't like that very much. Alright, we're going to go to a 3/8" spindle gouge with a sweatback grind a la Marc Soleil, and we will put a tenon on here. And we'll see if that tenon has solid wood continuously, or at least through 2/3 or 3/4 of it. Oh yeah, we can hold it with that. Still have a tiny little bit of bark and a little void right there, but that's not going to affect the ability of the chuck to hold that. And that, when we can hold it, then we can start to develop some shape to it and some character and see what we want to get out of it. So we'll go ahead and put that in a chuck. I forgot to re-aim that camera. There we go. Knock this out. Now we may, if we do an insert, this probably will not get completed tonight. We will, sorry, I was into my toolboxes earlier repairing a gas can lid. I forgot to put them away. So if we do the insert, that'll be glued in, and I use wood glue, and I like to let that set overnight. Or I might even use two-part epoxy. We'll see. Let's see what we get once we get this round. Feel and how I feel about shape, whether or not I want to put a foot and a top on it. Decisions to be made. The wood's going to tell me what to do. And that tenon is just perfect. We've got our center from starting between centers. We can lock down the tailstock, push the shoulder of the piece down onto the shoulder of the chuck, and that friction is going to create the torque that holds that piece and prevents it from moving while we do whatever it is we're going to do with it. Again, we got a lot of really wildly curled grain, a lot of strange grain direction because of these branches. Let me slide this camera over. So we're going to see what we can get out of this. We'll keep working on getting it cylindrical. I think this bark is going to have to go, especially if this is the top of the piece. But I'm really liking what's happening here. Let's keep working on it. See if we can't come up with a solution. Again, I have no plan here. I'm letting the wood speak to me. All right, let's take a look. So we've got a lot of bark inclusion here. Bark inclusion here, bark inclusion here. Some wildly entertaining grain. The question becomes to bark or not to bark. Let me sharpen my gouge while I think about what we're going to do with this. Just put a real fresh, little edge on this and see. Sorry, I was checking the chat. See what we can come up with. I'm still thinking about where this little piece of wood is going. Again, this was given to me by Mark Soleil, and it's a beautiful little piece of wood. There's some really great character in there, but I wasn't sure what we were going to get until I started turning it. Got the bark off of it. So now we've got to make some decisions about how we're going to handle that. Oh, and we must plug in the sharpening tool. That's what happens when I do lives. Did a live demo for the Worldwide Woodturners on Wednesday. And in order to hear their discussion, I stream it through my little boombox here, which means I have to unplug my sharpening station in order to keep enough power for everything. All right. Okay, got a nice fresh edge on there. Go ahead. Let's see what we can get going here. Not sure again about this bark. Let me flatten this end first. I think that'll help me start to make a decision about what we're going to do. Tool rest is a little bit high. There we go. And what you're hearing, if you can hear it, is the tool skipping off of the softness of the bark and into the hardness of the hard wood right here. Ooh, man, there's some good grain going on in here. Okay, let's see. Let me make one pass. We're going to turn from the middle out here. Very, very light pass with a freshly sharpened gouge. Very, very easy here. Let's take a look at what we've got going on. If you're just joining in, welcome. This is a piece of burly, crotchy box elder obtained from my friend and mentor, Mark Soleil. It's a really, really expressive, beautiful piece of wood. It has some crotch figure in it. Has some burlishness to it. Has some bark inclusions, which we're not going to get away from. So I believe, so if I were to do this as a traditional box, I would most likely divide it right around here. However, if I did that, I would remove a considerable amount of this figure and it would never match up at all. So having this be a single piece of wood is not really a viable option. So what I believe we're going to do is stabilize these bark inclusions using CA glue. They're going to become a permanent part of this piece of wood. It's fused to the wood. It's not coming off. It's there. I'm not worried about it flying off or anything, but it's much softer than the wood surrounding it. So I want to stiffen it up with the CA glue, make it a little bit more stable. And this is actually a really prime candidate to go into the stabilization tank and get some cactus juice, which is the other option I have. I don't think we're going to do that. I need to fill, I've got some holes here that are bark inclusion, but that's rot. That's rot there. So that's filled with some African blackwood shavings and CA. I'll clean that out real quick. Get that rot out of there. But that rot is what's brought the color here. We'll fill in here a little bit with black CA glue with Starbond black. Hang on just a second here. We're going to salvage this little piece of wood that is essentially burn pile material, but we're not going to let that happen. Oh, first is some Starbond thin. And do I have some black? Starbond black. And let me get, not sure if I have a little tiny applicator. It's okay if I don't. So first we'll work on this little spot here. Just get some Starbond in there. Now when I hit it with the accelerant, it's going to pull it in. Should pull it in a little. I'll get a little bit more in there. Yep, it's starting to soak down into those deeper parts, which is what we want. Get a little bit more in there. We may have to do that one or two more times as we're turning, which is okay. Now these deeper ones, clean that out a little bit more. If you can get your hands on some used real dental picks from the dentist's office after they've sterilized them multiple times, eventually they get worn down to the point where they're just not usable anymore for dentistry, but they're fantastic for woodworking. You can usually get them free. You can just go to the dentist's office and ask. All right, and we're going to get some African blackwood shavings here. We're going to put a couple of drops of Starbond Thin down in there. That's soaking into the wood around it. And we're going to pack that with shavings. Another substance you can use is coffee grounds. Does this very well. Happen to have the opportunity to turn plenty of African blackwood, so I've got this little bucket of shavings. We're just going to soak that down in there with the thin. You have to be careful when you do this. The CA glue begins to cure as soon as it's exposed to air, and when you're putting CA glue onto fine shavings like this, it can actually flash cure because you've got so much surface area of this wood exposed to the air. So that CA will flash cure, and it gets pretty hot when it does that. You see a little bit of outgassing there. That's from that curing very quickly because it's got so much surface area exposed to the air. All right, so we'll fill in there. We got a couple little holes right here. Another trick you can do is hit it with accelerator first, then put your black in, and then hit it with accelerator again. And that actually helps the accelerator to cure and secure to the inside of the hole. One of the difficulties with the Starbond Black is because it's got rubber in it, it's vulcanized, it can take longer to cure. So you want to use a lot of your accelerator in ratio relationship to your CA glue. More accelerator than CA. Okay, now down here we get into the raw bark, raw edges. I think we're just going to do some stabilization soaking here, but I think I just want to let that be as it is. I don't want to fill holes down there. In the body, in the upper body, yes, but down here I think I want to keep that rugged natural bark appearance. So we'll just stabilize that, soak in that thin Starbond. That actually pulls down inside the wood and does stabilize. As it cures. Up here, I think we'll put some of the black in. Let me finish this lower portion. So we're just stabilizing those areas. Again, I'm not really concerned with the bark flying off. However, I do want to make sure that the bark is stiff enough to handle being worked. Which is why I'm hitting it with the CA glue. Now, up here we have some challenges. We're going to have to hollow, and we're going to have a lid that fits down into or onto. I'm still working that out. So I'm not sure that filling this is a good idea. But at the same time, if I want to have as continuous a shape as possible, see, and it's ragged down here, and it's running ragged up here, and that's balancing. Maybe we'll leave it. Maybe we'll just stabilize it and leave it and let that balance speak from the top of the bottom of the piece. I like that idea. Soaking into the end grain here on the face. All this is going to get turned back, and you're not going to see that Starbond shine. But as you can see, it's soaking straight down into the surface. We will be finishing this little box, by the way, with Parfix 3408 CA glue. So I'm not worried about CA shadow, I guess you could call it. You see where it's soaking out here, darkening the wood. Not worried about that. All right, so we stabilize that bark. Okay, I think that's where we're headed with this. So just hit this with accelerant. Now, I have to think of what the lid is going to look like so that it complements this part. That's the next step, if you will, is what are we going to do with that lid? What are we going to do with that? How are we going to put a lid on this really, really expressive piece of wood with this grain without losing or detracting from that expressive grain? That's a good question, and I don't have an answer yet, but we'll figure it out. All right, again, extremely light cuts. Very, very fine cuts here. Trying to let the tool do the most of the work. Let's take a look here. Okay. Not bad. Not bad. We're going to have to come back and do some touch-up, which is expected. Let's try a shear scrape. Right in through here. Just very carefully work that edge, and it's already time to sharpen my gouge again. I'm getting a bird mouth. See what it looks like. Not bad, not bad, not bad. Definitely a workable surface. Now, this little crack, this we're going to have to fill as well to be consistent with what we've done at the rest of the piece. I'll just come in here with a little more of that Starbond black, hit it with the accelerant first. That helps it pull down in and adhere on the insides of the crack. And as you can see, I think you can see that the crack is kind of, it sucked it down in. So we want to hit it a couple of times with the with the glue and then the accelerant. If you're unfamiliar, CA glue, cyanoacrylate, is essentially liquid acrylic. When exposed to air, it cures the whatever the chemicals are that they use to liquefy it, evaporate, and it becomes completely inert. So arguably, CA glue is a food-safe product once it has cured because it becomes acrylic. It just solidifies into acrylic, which is safe to eat food off of. Certainly don't want to pull chips of it off and eat them, but it is a safe surface for food contact. All right, let's see. Take a little bit more off of there. Just a shear scrape is all we need here to even that surface out around that crack. You know what? I think I know what we're going to do with this. I do. We had a demo 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, Worldwide Woodturners, of a impossible salt shaker, or a volcano salt shaker. Oh, I've got a big void right there. That's going to have to get filled with some African blackwood. And I think this would be a perfect little impossible salt shaker, or a little volcano salt shaker. So I think that's what we're going to do with it. We're going to make it a volcano. Get some thin in there. A nice chunk of African blackwood. Really work that down in. Again, that's African blackwood shavings. When I will clean up around the lathe first so that I can pick up the shavings without worrying about exposure to anything else. I think I'll do this little spot here too. Just because it's deep. Serve kind of that raw edge at the top and the bottom, but not in the middle here. Okay, soak. Yeah, down here at the bottom, I'm okay with it. All right, a little scraping. Oh, let's hit that with accelerant. Make sure that that sets up. I'm excited. This is going to be cool. This is a really cool little project. Dane Chandler, Doug, no. Who demoed it? Matt Harbour did the demo. Dane Chandler does these. There's several people who make this this little volcano, or this little hidden or secret salt shaker. It's a very cool. You'll see. This is a pretty cool little thing. Pretty cool little thing. All right. So we'll shear scrape again here. And then I am going to have to, I'm actually just, since that's what I decided I'm going to do, I have to come up with a plan. Because of this bark here, I'm not sure that I can put a tenon on this end, and I'm going to need a tenon on this end. So this can become the bottom. That's doable. We can work with this being the bottom, this being the top, and then we'll use a jam chuck to clean that up and finish the piece. I think that might be my solution. Alright, we're going to get a little bit of the Starbond black in there. It's a little bit of a divot. And again, in this section, we don't want that. So we'll just backfill that blackwood with the Starbond black so that we have a smooth surface here. Just throughout the day. So this will be the top ultimately. We'll have to jam it to clean the top off. This will be the bottom. We'll drill into this end. And then we have to create a plug. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. I do believe that's what we're going to do. So we're going to keep this rawness here and here. I like it. I like it. It's a good plan. At least that's what I'm going to keep telling myself. Good. Cool. Okay. So we got to flatten this surface off. And actually we're going to put a little divot in the end so that we can... Going to be the bottom. Let me make sure this is in here tight. Oh yeah, we're good. Always pays to stop and double check because wood moves. And especially if you're working end grain and you start getting into any kind of high torque motions, high torque functions, you can start to get that a little bit cocky in your chuck, and it can start to come loose. So it always pays to stop, check, and make sure that you're still nice and tight. So what we're going to do here is flatten this surface off, clean it up a little bit. We're going to get a wire brush in there and get the crystals from the Starbond out. And then we're going to drill up to about here so that there's a cavity, there's a place for the salt to go. Three-inch spindle gouge. Clean that center out first. Make ourselves a little divot. Just so. And then I'm going to very slightly undercut this and make a little bit of a cove. I'm doing that now before we get into finishing. Bottom of the piece, and I want it to sit flat. So the only thing that's going to be in contact is that outer rim, and if for some reason moisture is drawn in and it swells or anything, because it is slightly concave, if it swells and the bottom bows a little, still sit flat because only the outer rim here, only the edges are touching. So let's see how we did there. Nice. We'll be able to clean that up. Like I said, we'll hit that with a wire brush. We might not even need to. We'll clean that up, and Let's go ahead and grab the Jacob's chuck and a Forstner bit, and we'll do a little bit of drilling, create the hollow body of our piece. This is a really neat design. I enjoyed the demo. I wasn't quite able to finish the whole demo, but I was there long enough to get the gist of how to make this little thing, and it's a pretty nifty little. It's a cool design. I can't remember who the originator was. The name of the person who came up with this was mentioned during the meeting. You can go back to the Worldwide Woodturners YouTube channel. It's just called Wood Turning, and you can see all of our meetings and all of our demonstrations. We have a meeting every Wednesday night. It is free, and we are literally a worldwide organization. We have members from all over the globe who demonstrate and share. So I highly encourage you. That's too small. That's about right. And that is 1 1/2 inch. But we truly are represented across the globe. It's always enjoyable when we have our members from New Zealand, Ireland, England, Scotland, Matthias Beer from, I think he's Swedish, joins us, and he's done a demonstration or two. When you do this, when you use a Forstner bit to drill, you want to slow your lathe down, and you want to take very little cuts. You want to move slow. You always want to hold on to your Jacob's chuck in the Morse taper. If that bit gets caught in the wood and the chuck starts spinning, you're in a lot of trouble. Because when you stop the lathe, you got to remember you're creating heat there, and that is going to expand that metal, and it's going to create wreak havoc with the wood. And if that starts spinning and it gets away from you, it could jam in there, and then you're just going to have to break the piece in order to get your Forstner bit out. So it's not a good idea. Also, heat is your enemy. You want to be able to take that chuck. Yeah, that's not hot. You want to be able to take that chuck out, or that bit out of the chuck when you're finished drilling without burning yourself. If you can't touch your Forstner bit when you finish drilling, you're drilling too fast. You're creating too much friction, too much heat. It's always good to pull it out. Make sure that your hole is clear. Heat is your enemy when you're drilling on the lathe. You want to prevent it as much as possible, or reduce it. You can't necessarily prevent it, but you want to reduce it as much as possible. Keeping those shavings clear is a part of that. It's a big part of that. So this little project is really pretty cool. You flip it upside down to fill it, and then the shape of the plug that we're going to put in the bottom is what allows it to not spill salt all over, 1, and 2, to be a salt shaker. and we'll get there in just a minute. Now, one thing I can't remember is proportions, but I have a pretty good thought on that. So what you're seeing is me trying this for the first time. I am not demonstrating this. I'm going off of what I learned from the demonstration. And like I said, I made it through most of it, but I have to get up at 4 in the morning on Thursdays after the meeting to go to work. So I can't always make it to through the entire meeting. Just about there. Hello, Munchie. My Mastiff has come to visit. All right. That's our depth. And we're going to hit that with a gauge real quickly and set that gauge and set it aside because we're going to need that measurement for the plug. So we are at 2 5/8 inches in depth. And again, you need to be able to remove your Forstner bit and put it away. If you can't handle your Forstner bit when you finish drilling, you're drilling too fast and you're creating too much heat. Slow your lathe down. Don't go winding it in there as fast as you can. Take your time. Okay. At this point, what we're going to do, good, is sand and put finish on this part. We're going to use a rotary sander from Wood Turner's Wonders. This is the Wood Turner's Wonders Turbo Turner's Inertia Sander. This is a really great tool. It's magnetic with the bearings enclosed so they don't pack up with grit. Pretty awesome. All right, we're going to start with 180 grit if we can find it. It looks like 240. That is 240. That is 80. Hang on, there it is. I got sandpaper everywhere. I'll lay it down to about 575 or 500 RPM. This is a spindle-oriented piece. We could just use straight sandpaper. 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It's up to you. We're going to sand in both directions. We have a lot of natural edges, live edge in here. We want to make sure that everything is smooth. This is intended for people to pick up and use. So we want to make sure that nobody's going to get a scratch or a cut from a sharp little piece of wood. That's 180 grit. Beautiful. Ooh-wee. All right, and we have a little bit of stain right there from the CA glue, from the black CA. do a little touch. Just a spot sand right here. Take that back. Now, if you do this, if you spot sand like that, where you're just working on one area, after you finish that, you want to turn the lathe again so that you don't have a flat spot. You've got to blend that in both directions so that you don't have a flat spot there. So just remember that if you stop the lathe to sand a single spot, then you need to bring the lathe back up to speed and sand over it to make sure that you don't have a flat spot. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay, now what we're going to do is raise the grain using rubbing alcohol, isopropyl alcohol. This is 91% isopropyl alcohol. I use it to raise grain rather than water, because water takes about 20 or 30 minutes or longer to dry in the humidity in North Carolina, and alcohol takes about 2 minutes. So that's going to disappear quite quickly. Dry up so that we can continue sanding. And the purpose of that is to raise the grain. It soaks in the liquid and expands, and then when we sand it, we remove that expanded grain, and ultimately it gives us a smoother surface, which is going to give us a nicer shine. All right, back to the inertia sander, because they don't take batteries. We'll go to 220 grit. Sanding in both directions. Okay. Now, we're going to hit it with alcohol again. But we have already raised any grain that was going to absorb liquid, expand, and need to be sanded back, and sanded it back. What we're doing now is simply cleaning the 220 grit dust we just created off of here, so that when we sand with 320 grit, we don't put 220 grit scratches in it and then have to sand those away as well. It reduces the sanding time immensely to clean the surface of the piece between grits. We already expanded the grain. We already did the grain pop, if that's what you want to call it, and sanded that away. So we don't get a fuzzy surface when we do this like we did the first time. We're just cleaning it so that we don't put heavier scratches in it as we step up to a finer grit sandpaper, which is going to be 320. When it is located. There it is. Thought I had some 400. Do not have 400 on a disc. That's okay. We will use regular paper for 400 and 600. And unfortunately, I am out of 800. So I can't sand this all the way to 800, but 600 is going to be pretty good. .320 grit. The more attention you pay at a lower grit, the less time it takes at the higher grits and the faster you're done sanding. We could have got away with starting this at 220 grit, which is why I started at 180. I always step back 1 grit from what I think I can get away with. That ensures that I don't leave any of those pesky tool marks and things. For an in-depth conversation about sanding, you can watch the Worldwide Woodturners meeting from this last Wednesday, the 14th, where I did a demonstration all about sanding. Just go to the Wood Turning YouTube channel. I'm not sure if Wednesday's meeting is up yet or not, but it'll get up pretty quick. And the demonstration is always included. And we did a full demo on sanding. Because nobody teaches sanding. And that's kind of silly. It's a skill we all need to develop. So I broke the mold and taught sanding. All right, we're going to grab some 400. Got a nice little chunk right here. Now, normally, if I'm using this kind of paper, I will stop and sand with the grain. 2 reasons I'm not doing that. First of all, I'm using the rotary sanding discs, which eliminates the need for that because I'm not putting parallel scratches through the piece. The other reason is because there's no one grain direction. This is burly and crotchy, and there's not a lick of straight grain in this piece of wood. So there is no sanding with the grain here. What we will do is we'll hit this with 400 in both directions, and then we'll do some random orbit sanding with the 400 in both directions. Well, not in both directions. That's moving it by hand. So random orbit sanding is exactly that, just using my hands. I will just rotate this, make little circles randomly. That will break up any scratch patterns. This is really shaping up. This is going to be quite beautiful. Now I do have 600 grit on the wheel. First, let's grab a wire brush real quick. Got a little nylon brush here. Should do the trick. Get into our little cracks here where that CA bubbled up. That's just breaking up any of those CA crystals. That should be fine. A little bit more random pattern. Good. We'll clean it one more time, and we'll put a 600 grit wheel on the disc. Jingle Bell, are you okay? My dog's in here coughing. She had throat damage when she was a baby, when she was rescued. Okay. Just about finished with our sanding. Now again, I can't take it up to 800 grit because I'm out of 800 grit paper. But we'll take this up to 400. And then we'll put our CA finish on it. Or we'll take this up to 600, sorry. We'll put our CA finish on it. I'll go with a 3-inch wheel. And 600 grit. This is my favorite sandpaper. This is the Green Wave from Woodturners Wonders. It is really good sanding paper. really good sandpaper. It's got a Mylar backing. It was designed by wood turners for wood turning. And the major criticism I can give this sandpaper is I have to force myself to change to a new sheet because it lasts an unbelievably long time. And I will use it and use it and use it until I'm probably not sanding, I'm burnishing, because it just lasts. This is very good sandpaper. And you pay the price for it. It is not cheap, but it's worth it to have a super nice finish on your pieces. All right, there we go. Now, we're going to blow this off really, really well so that we can grab the Parfix 3408, and we're going to put a Parfix finish on this. Parfix is, again, surgical grade cyanoacrylate. It is doesn't outgas heavily like other brands. It's very, very clean, very pure. It's good stuff. You can get it. Apparently, it is now carried on Amazon, but you can also find it with wood turners. Sell it. Marc Soleil sells it. I'm not sure who else sells it, but there are several people in the Worldwide Wood Turners Club who sell it. That's what the bottle looks like, 3408. It's the thin. And this has a long open time. It's got about a 45 to 90 second open time, which is really, really useful. I'll show you why. I lost the cap, so I used an old finial and made myself a new cap. I'm just going to rub it on. Ooh-wee, beautiful. Make sure we seal that end grain. Come around the inside lip here. And then we're going to rub away the excess. Just dry away that excess. And that's it. That's finished. Jingle Bell, are you okay? That is finished. Let's see how we're doing on time. We've been at this for about 90 minutes. We got 3 of you with me. No, we've been at this for an hour. That's not bad. I got 3 of you with me. Thank you for sticking around. All right. I think we're about ready to take this out of the truck. So we have the depth. Where's my depth gauge? We're going to double check that. Make sure that that's set. That is. So we know exactly how deep we drilled. And we're going to take our vernier caliper. And that was a 1.5 inch Forstner bit. It's 1 3/8. It's this one. Okay, so that's a 1.5 inch Forstner bit. We're going to set that at the widest point with our vernier caliper. And we're going to confirm. Yep, we are at 1.5 inch. Because we're going to make a plug that fits in here that's a volcano shape. And that's how we're going to put salt in and shake our salt. So this comes out of the chuck. That is beautiful. Ultimately, we're going to jam that end smooth off the top, clean up the top, maybe do a little decorative turning up there, and do the same finishing process. And we need a piece of wood that will make our plug. And I have this nice little piece of spalted hard maple that will do the trick. Tenon's a little big, but we won't let that stop us. And it will do the trick because it is, yes, just under the depth of our piece, which leaves a little at the top for filling salt in there. And plenty of room for the width here. Let's switch it to camera 3 so you can see it's plenty of room for the width. I've got lots to work with. So that's our piece of wood. The first thing we're going to do is drill a hole straight through it, and that hole is got to be small enough that not too much salt comes out, but big enough that we can get salt in. So I think this is 1/8 of an inch. I think that'll do us. And again, I am trying to remember details from Matt Harbour's demonstration. If you want to see the demonstration, it was 2 weeks ago on Worldwide Woodturners at our meeting, which you can find the video in its entirety on the Woodturners YouTube channel. That is the Worldwide Woodturners channel. Clear the flutes here. We'll just drill this as deep as we can, which is why we got to clear those flutes, because we're packing shavings in there. And if we can't make it all the way through, that's okay. Really would like to get close. But that's all I've got. Let's see where we got to. Make a mark. Oh, we're just about all the way through, which is good. That's what we needed, is just about all the way through or all the way through. We're good. We are good. Again, same thing as with the Forstner bit. You should be able to take your bit out and put it away. If it's too hot to do that, you were drilling too fast. 1/8 of an inch, not a lot of friction. You can drill a lot faster than you can with a Forstner bit. Okay, what we're going to do now is take this down to our diameter at the base first. Actually, we're going to flatten that surface first. We're going to flatten this face. Spindle gouge a little bit high. Some glue on there. Just turn that all away. And now we're going to transfer our width here. I think that's got us. Just about perfect. We're going to leave it a little wide so that we make sure we get good jam. So we'll sneak up on that. All right, we're going to come in on the side here with beading and parting tool. Like I said, we're going to sneak up on that line. And we're too big, which is good. That's what we want. We're going to creep down to the right diameter here. A little something I learned from Richard Findley today, and he learned it from Jimmy Clues, is we're going to leave a little bow. All right, let's see how we're doing. Still too big. This has to be a good tight jam. Done. It's in. Well, how are you going to fill your salt shaker? Well, that's the magic part. That's the volcano. You shall see, and it shall make sense. And it's a really quite a clever little project. All right, just about there. Let's see how that fits. I'm going to make a burnish mark here. Okay, let's see where I'm at. Take a tiny bit more off here. Just adjust that a little bit. It's going to be a little too tight. I want to sand it to get it to, there we go, in that wide spot. It's going to give us that good jam. Perfect. Okay, now, again, volcano, right? This is a volcano salt shaker. Well, what's that mean? Well, it kind of speaks to the shape. So this is our widest point, and that's what's going to fit down into the salt shaker and jam and stay. It's permanent. But remember, we drilled a hole here. Get the tailstock out of the way. Just a hair high. We're going to do the drill and pull method. Hold your tool at about 45 degrees. You want the point right in the middle. We're just going to drill in and pull back. It's really more of a drill and push. You push your right hand away. You use your left hand as locked on the tool rest as a pivot. You push your right hand away. You come from the inside out on end grain so that you're always cutting into supported grain. There we go. So what I've got here is a little cone leading down into the center. Clean that up real quick with a 1/2 inch scraper. Tool rest is too low. Tool rest is too high, but we can drop the tip and get a shear. There we go. Nice. Very nice. Nice shear scrape there. Beautiful. Good surface. Minimal sanding, no finish. It's maple, it's hard maple. It's not going to need a finish because it's going to have salt in it. And let's make sure that that hole didn't pack full of shakes. Grab our little inch drill bit. Make sure that hole's clear. All right. So we just need to sand here and here. We'll do that very quickly. Does not need to be over 180. We can sand this at 180 and be done. It helps if you actually use the sanding part of the sandpaper to do that. We're not touching this. We need that surface for the jam. Just want to make sure we don't have any sharp edges here. Round that over a little bit. Again, we're not worried about sealing this or anything. This is going to hold salt. We'll sand in reverse. Salt will kill anything that tries to make a purchase in it. Salt will absorb any liquid, which you should set your salt shaker down somewhere wet anyway. But it happens. All right. That's it. That is done. Now we go here to this part. And we make our volcano. We're going to remove a considerable amount of material. We have good straight grain, and we are in spindle orientation, so we will take this down with the skew. Peeling cut. Okay, now we got to think for a second. So we had our depth right about there. That's how deep it is. But we need it to be shorter, and probably by an inch. I think I'm gonna make my top of this an inch shy of the depth of the piece, which is right here. So we made this little cone right here, right? And we're going to make a volcano shape here. When that's jammed into the bottom of the piece, you flip it upside down, you pour your salt in it and kind of shake it and rattle it around. It's going to drain down through the volcano, through the little cone. It'll drain down into the piece, into the hollow here, right? And then when you turn it over, that salt's going to run down the sides of the volcano, and to get it out, you just shake it, and it will actually rattle up and come out the hole as you're shaking it like that. Very, very clever. Very clever design. And I will go back and do the research and figure out who originated it. We did talk about that during the meeting 2 weeks ago during the demonstration. I just was very tired and don't remember. We're just going to come in here. Remember, that's our widest point. That's where our jam starts. V-cut. All right, I think I'm going to just part that. Let's check it real quick. We'll do a quick sand, 180 grit. Excuse me, apologize for that. A little bit of a knot there, but I'm not worried about it. I think it'll be fine. Really good finish right off the tool. I just want to make sure there's no cracks, no high spots, and there's not. It's good. We'll come in with my thin parting tool, my narrow kerf parting tool. my homemade concoction here. There we go. There we go. And very quickly, now we can't jam it in yet. We cannot jam it in yet because we have to finish the top of the piece. But we'll sand that flat real quick. Let's get a fresh 180. Actually, I think we're going to take my face shield off. I think we're going to go with 150 because we got that little nub we need to sand down. So a little bit coarser paper. Now, one thing, and I missed this part of the demonstration, so I don't know if I should have a little bit of a cone in the top here. I don't think so, but I don't know. So I guess we'll find out when I test it. We come back in with that drill bit. Just make sure that that's clear. I think just having a flat spot will do just fine. We'll widen that a little bit. And so that's set. It will jam. Let's double check that it will jam without jamming it. Yes, and I'm doing that backwards because if I put it in this way and I get it to jam, I'm not going to get it back out, which is the whole point. But we need to create a jam chuck to hold this so we can clean up that end. So we'll set our volcano aside, and that's why this is a volcano salt shaker. That's a little volcano-ish shape, I guess, roughly. But we need to come down to the same diameter here, which we still have set on our vernier caliper, but we will double check, make sure we are set, and we will take this down to that diameter, jam our piece, and finish the top. I think I just have enough for this to function as a jam chuck. I think it's just deep enough. So touching only the side of the caliper closest to me. If I touch that tip, it'll just pick it up and kick it right at me, and that's sharp. And that inside circle there, can't quite see it. I'll give it to you. Inside circle right there, that is our diameter for our jam chuck. We'll come back here. Munchie, hey, chill. Bebo doesn't want to play. Bebo's tired. Dogs are kicking up a ruckus. Okay. I'm just going to come straight down here. Our 3/8 spindle gouge. Remove material. Get just outside of our diameter. Just like that. And we'll do the same thing with a little bulbous high spot there. So we're going to come back in with the beading and parting tool, using it very much like a miniature skew. All right, let's see where we're at. Oh, ho, ho. We might have to take a tiny bit back off of there, that middle. Yeah, we're going to take this down just a hair. There we go. That should do us. Made it a little bit deeper just so that there's a little bit more tenon inside the vessel here. Boom. She be jammed. However, the safest practice is always, hang on a second, tightening my, there we go. There, now my face shield's working correctly, sorry. Safest practice is always to bring your live center back up, especially when you're jammed, and you keep a little cone here in the center as long as humanly possible. It's just the safest way to do this when you're using a jam chuck. Just so that we have 2 points holding it until we can't. And see, you get that little bit of wobble. That's a jam, so that's why we want to do that. And we're going to round this over, give this top a little bit of shape. Let's see what we got here. So I'm feeling the coarseness of the bark. Ooh, that's so pretty. I'm going to take a little bit more. I want to round that corner. So I had mentioned doing something decorative up here. There's no need. I'll show you in a few minutes. The grain is just incredible. We don't need to decorate it. It doesn't need that. All right. Tiny bit of wood left. snap that away and we'll sand it. Because we are on the end of a jam and we are far away from the headstock. So we really don't want to put too much. It's a good jam, but we really don't want to put too much pressure there. And we really don't have to. We will power sand, starting at 180, slow the lathe down, drill turning in the opposite direction of the lathe. Roll that corner. Both directions. Beautiful. Okay, we're getting a little bit of flake out of the, we got bark here. You can't quite see it. You're not going to be able to see it with that camera. You got a little bit of bark here and it's starting to flake a little bit and starting to lift out. But remember, I wanted that wild surface. We got that live edge down there. We got a little bit of that wildness, that live edge up here. I think we're going to leave it be. I think we're just going to leave it be for continuity from top to bottom so that it kind of matches. Well, if we lose a little bit, we lose a little bit. Que sera, sera. 240 is next, but we are going to raise that grain. We are on the end grain. It is going to soak in liquid and expand and will get smoothed back much more dramatically than the side grain. Ooh, really pretty. You guys can't see it yet, but I will show it to you, and it's quite gorgeous. Beautiful. That grain is has already released that alcohol. It's dry. Oh my. This is lovely. This is really quite striking. We do have some cracking up here. I'm not going to fill it. Again, we're going from wildness to reserved and smooth from the ends to the middle. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it just the way I created it. Just the way God created it. Just the way it grew. Now, I don't worry about getting alcohol over here. That's already finished with that CA glue. That is water resistant now. I don't like to call wood finishes waterproof unless you've soaked it thoroughly in resin. Ugh. But water resistant it absolutely is. All right, that was 220. We're going to go to 320. There we go. Again, soak it with alcohol. We're cleaning at this point, removing the 320 grit we just sanded it with. before we hit it with 400 grit so that we don't put 320 grit scratches in the surface. We just go right up to 400. Again, I don't have any 400 wheels. We'll use regular paper, but this is also the end, and there are rings, so we're really not having the same kind of challenges we do as we're coming across the end grain on the sides. Although again, there's no one real grain direction in this piece of wood. It's pretty wild. Ooh, wow, this is so pretty. Let me clean it one more time. We'll hit it with the 600 and we'll hit it with the CA. I'll pop it off of there and show it to you. And then we will assemble it. Oh, beautiful piece of wood. Really beautiful piece of wood. I can't wait to send a picture to Mark Soleil. He's who gave me this little piece of, I'm pretty sure it's box elder. Great spalting, great burly character, crotch figure, bark inclusion, all around gorgeous little piece of wood. 600, where are you? You are on the 3-inch sanding pad mandrel, which is, where did I set the 3-inch sanding mandrel? Oh, it would be on the actual inertia sander. We're just going to go with our random orbit here by hand. Just like so. Blow that off really good. And come in with our CA. And I think I used my last glove. Oh, I have one more. Time to order a new box of gloves. Rub it in there. And then wipe away the excess. And that is literally all she takes for a CA finish using Parfix 3408. Switch you to the overhead view because that's the best camera. Let that sit for just a minute. Look at that. Look at that. Is that just not spectacular? Absolutely stunning. That grain is wild. Wild. A little bit excess CA on there. Let me wipe that away. There we go. All right, get in there with some 600 grit. Just get in here and get that sparkliness. I'm gonna clean that up a little. That's that star bond that we use to seal the piece. beautiful. Absolutely stunning. Now, let's assemble it. So we have our volcano. Jam fit. That will now never come out. You put your salt in the bottom there. Pour it in. Basically, once it backs up, it's going to fill the bottom inch or so, 3/4 of an inch. That's where the gap that I left is. So it'll fill that up. When you turn it over, the salt's going to run down the sides of the volcano. And to shake your salt, you literally just shake it. That bounces that salt up and comes back down on it, hits that flat spot and falls through the hole. Just like that. There's your little salt shaker. Really clever design. I appreciate the demo from Matt Harbor the other night at Worldwide Woodturners during our meeting. Again, go to Wood Turning. That's the name of the YouTube channel, and check that out. That is the worldwidewoodturners.org YouTube channel, and all of our meetings and all of our demonstrations are there every week. So go check it out. There's a lot of just unbelievable wealth of information that gets put out in these club meetings weekly and demonstrations every week. It is phenomenal. So there you have it, the Volcano Salt Shaker, or the Magic Salt Shaker, from a little piece of box elder, crotchy, burly goodness from Mark Soleil. Appreciate you guys joining me. Thank you so much for hanging out. We're going to go ahead and end the live. But I appreciate you being here. See you again soon.